Hello, my name is Connor. Today I'm going to talk about Beach House. I only have 3 of their albums on vinyl. Um, I really need to catch up because I have like 8. Uh, but I only have 3, and that's okay. The place where I go to get them physically has only had like the same Beach House vinyls since I started going there. And that is the first one I want to talk about, Depression Cherry. I heard at one point that this album cover, I think, was supposed to have like a velvet cover or maybe have some sort of texture on it, but I do really like this shiny red with the iridescent font. Super cool, super simple. Songs in the back. This album is one that really, really grew on me. I was kind of scared when I was listening to it at first because it was not giving me the same sort of initial click that their other albums had given to me at that point. It does have some of my favorite songs from the band. Like, Sparks is probably my favorite on the album. I liked Levitation at first, but it really, really took a long time for me to adjust to the sound of that one. Because at that point, I think I had only listened to Bloom and I think their most recent album just because I was curious about what they were doing more recently. But this one kind of sat in a really low spot for me for a while if I had to put their albums, if I had to rank them. But just recently it actually clicked with me how good this album is. I feel like you just really have to give it a patience and like time. Also, it's been like rainy and like kind of foggy vibes recently when I drive to work in the morning. It's like always super dark. And I listened to this album. It was the perfect length from my house to my job. So that was really nice. And I think the final track, Days of Candy, has actually become another one of my favorite Beach House songs. And I love the switch up, I guess. It kind of reminds me of Over and Over off of Once Twice Melody. But yeah, just a good album. It has some cool stuff on the inside. This vinyl sleeve has like this glow 3D art. I feel like I've seen this somewhere before, but really cool. Not what I expected. It's a black vinyl on the inside. Okay. The next one I want to talk about is their 7th album, 7. Crazy. I actually wasn't sure about this album cover at first, but the more I looked at it, I really started to like sort of the different patterns and the iridescence on the actual cover is really cool. I think it adds like another layer of vibes, whatever. I looked up the meaning of the album cover, and this came out 2016 to I think 2017, which was a year, let me tell you. So it's sort of like fragmented images of faces of like a woman and how like women were going through it at that time, especially with like Roe v. Wade that came after and stuff. But anyways, it's very simple on the inside, but I do love a good lyric sheet. This is another album that kind of grew on me, and it's still kind of growing on me. I'm not as big of a fan as the back half of the album as I am the first. I think the first half of the album, again, has some of their best songs. Like, the first song, Dark Spring, is one of my favorites. I also really like Lemon Glow, obviously. Link on You, if that's how you say it, I don't know, is not one of my favorite Beach House songs, but it's still, like, not terrible. It almost sounds like it belongs on Depression Cherry because it has that same sort of, like, distant, booming, like, drum kit thing going on. But it's just not really for me. I love Black Car recently, and also Dive off this album. They perfectly merge sort of like a pop sensibility with their really dreamy sound, and I think Dive might be the best song in the album just because of the switch up in the latter half again. I really like those drums. They're super punchy, and then this really cool guitar pops in and just carries the rest of the song. And I love the vocal layering as well. I can't tell if it's like Victoria just like harmonizing or kind of Alex thrown in there as well, because he sometimes does the deeper harmonies. But yeah, that's also why I like Dark Spring. Dark Spring's really, it's one of those, you know what I mean? The last album I have of theirs is, I think, their 2015 album. Oh, 2012? Okay. I don't know if that's right, but damn. I thought it was 2012. Holy crap. I love this album. This, for a while, was my favorite Beach House album. I think for a few months it was. But it actually has been kind of knocked down by Teen Dream. And I don't have that on vinyl yet. But that's okay. It doesn't make me mad at all. I love the vinyl sleeves on this. They're very simple, but like, it is really how I imagine the music. Just at night, like you're driving, you're waiting at a stoplight or something, and the song is playing. Silhouette, someone, some nice clouds. It's a cool photo actually. Forest. Yeah, this album basically has all of their like banger songs. I will say, like, this is, even though I do like Teen Dream more, at first this was like the most consistent album from them. I would say that this is a perfect album. Even though like the last two songs I don't listen to as frequently, they were still really greatly experienced the first time I listened to them. I don't know why I said it like that. But I had a good time listening to that album for the first time. And I mean, Myth is on this album. Myth is like, that song is wild. I remember one time, I think I heard the beginning of this song a really long time ago when I was in school and I only had an iPad to access the internet, not even a phone. And I heard the beginning of Myth and I was like, this sounds dumb. And I just vividly remember this album cover. Like, that's all I remembered about it. And then it kind of just reappeared in my life and I was like, I actually wonder what that music sounds like. Turns out really good, and I did not give it the time of day back then. I was only listening to Lana Del Rey and like Marina and the Diamonds. But weren't we all in 2012? Let's be honest. But that's all the vinyls that I have. I would really, really like to get the black version of Once Twice Melody, because I do like the white version and the sort of shiny whatever. But the black looks so sleek. I really like how the frame looks on that one. Their first two albums, I think, might be easiest to get on vinyl first. I'm not sure, because I would love to have Devotion. Devotion has been like an unexpected love for me since the beginning. I think I listened to Bloom, their first album, and then I listened to Teen Dream, which I did not really like Teen Dream at all, but now I think it's like my top 3 albums of all time, if I'm being honest. Because it was just like really not what I expected, and it was my first dive into their earlier music, if you count 3 albums in earlier music. But it has their best songs on it. I would say that Real Love at first was kind of a meh for me, but now I love it. Her voice sounds great in that song. And I learned, I think from an interview, that they recorded this in like a single room, so there's like no reverb on the album of Teen Dream. Well, there is, but there's like barely any. It's all just like naturally the reverb in the room, and it's like a kind of a big one-room church studio thing, and it just sounds so great. Everything sounds so crisp and like light and dreamy. It's very easy listening music, but it also like is emotionally crushing for some reason. Like, it makes me happy and sad at the same time, but I would say that is the case with a lot of Beach House's music, especially Bloom. Um, but when it came to Devotion, I was really not like expecting those sort of styles. Like, it was the more lo-fi approach to the drums and her vocals, or like what was going on in the production. I think their earlier stuff did have a lot of interesting synth work, even though it was, I guess, a lot less detailed. I think it was more simple and like catchier in that way. I think their first album is just as good as Devotion. Maybe I like Devotion a little bit more. But their self-titled, their first album, Beach House, is really interesting because you could tell that they were just like, okay, let's like see what happens when we sit down and make music in my basement. And it turned out great. I think Saltwater is their first song, and it's probably one of my favorites off the album. I really like Apple Orchard as well. I think Apple Orchard is on that one and not Devotion. And Auburn and Ivory is probably my favorite off the album. And I have to talk about Master of None, obviously, because it was sampled by The Weeknd. And that was like a big thing for them. Oh, also Silver Soul, sampled by Kendrick, I believe, on Money Trees. What album have I not talked about? Thank Your Lucky Stars was released the same year as Depression Cherry. I was not a fan at the time, but that is crazy movement to get two albums in a year. And they were just like 5 months apart. I would say that they're actually two very different albums in my opinion. I think Thank Your Lucky Stars doesn't get as much credit, but it also might be at the bottom of my ranking of Beach House albums, even though I do like a handful of songs on it. The first track I initially clicked with very well, and I was like, if this is the vibe of the album, I'm gonna like it. But songs like She's So Lovely, I still hadn't listened to their earlier music yet, I don't think. And I was just thrown off by the sort of, I don't want to say dusty approach of it. Like, it's very, sounds like it's playing like on an old vinyl in like an empty room. I don't know. It has a weird like echoey, reverby vibe. But I actually really like that track now. And All of Your Yas is another track that I really have, that has really grown on me. I like the little, it sounds like a guitar, it might be a synth or something that they kind of enter the song with. And it just progressively stays in this sort of mellow vibe, which I wasn't really vibing with at the time. But I really do adore that song now, and I think the last track is probably my personal favorite off the album. Might be like top 10 or top 15 Beach House songs if I were to place it. I think I've talked about all of them. They have 8 albums, right? Well, that's all I have to say. I don't know. I think they release albums every few years, like 2, 3, 4 years. But One Spice Melody was a lot, because that was like a double album. It had 18 songs, and they were releasing it as an EP, which that's a thick album. 18 songs, y'all. And it is long, but it's so good. Also has some of my favorite songs. Has my favorite song, New Romance. Do not let me get a hold of that song. It is so good. Okay, that's all I have to talk about. Bye.